Hello and welcome to Let's Talk SEO. So an estimated 8.5 million computers have been affected by the CrowdStrike issue or update, which caused the issue, and they're all Windows computers. Now, the good news is that most home computers have not been affected. In fact, the good news is that no home computers have been affected, and it's mainly corporate computers, servers, and the likes. But the problem with this is that a lot of servers use the Windows operating system, and a lot of them use CrowdStrike. And so CrowdStrike is one of the most prominent security solutions out there for businesses. They're used by banks, they're trusted by web hosting companies, they're trusted by government organizations, and someone was telling me yesterday that they're also used by the military. Now, I'm not sure exactly how many Windows computers are affected, whether or not this 8.5 million figure is the full and final figure, or if there is more to it. But the question I've been asked, and over the past 3 days, people have been sending me emails asking me if their SEO will be affected by the update. And the question is, it depends. Like with all things SEO, it truly depends, because if you've been using a hosting service that's hosted your website on a server that uses Windows and is also shielded by CrowdStrike, then they would most probably be affected, because that would mean that your website goes down. And if your website goes down, then you obviously have a problem. Now, on my end, I've not had a website go down. None of my client sites have gone down, but people who have emailed me have sent screenshots of their websites going down. And they've also said that their hosting service has not reached out to them. And when they try reaching out to their hosting service, their host has not responded. So let's get into why exactly these computers or these websites may be affected. Well, back in April 19, 2004, and there's a link in the description if you want to read the whole article, Google announced a partnership or a security partnership with CrowdStrike. And apparently they were going to partner with CrowdStrike to make sure that a lot of their products were even more secure. Some of those products they were using were, CrowdStrike Falcon, Cloud Security, CrowdStrike Falcon Next Gen, SIEM, CrowdStrike Falcon Identity Protection, CrowdStrike Falcon Endpoint Protection, bundles as preferred vendors on the Google Marketplace. So they're also on the Google Marketplace, by the way. And they're also gonna, if you read the whole article, they're gonna provide security, or at least a security solution for Google Cloud Run to automatically scale container workloads and build container images. Will be to secure these processes with Falcon Cloud Security. And so it stands to reason if there was a CrowdStrike issue, it would affect Google Cloud. But apparently that has not been the case, because the specific products that Google Cloud is using might have not been affected by the issue or the bug, as some people are calling it. But there have been instances, as I said, people have emailed me where their hosting service has had a problem. Now, I'm not going to take exact names, but some of them are huge named in the industry. And so if you notice that your website has gone down, email your service provider. Don't wait for it to go back up. If you've now received an email from your service provider, mainly service providers will email you, just letting you know that there's going to be a planned update on a given date, or there's going to be an outage on a given date because they're fixing a computer or something. And also large organizations would get a phone call from their hosting service, and they'll be told, that there is going to be an issue. In the case of CrowdStrike, when these major websites, especially for banks, were affected, most times the company that's in charge for maintaining the site and maintaining the back end of the site emailed the bank and let the bank know that there was a problem. But the IT department of these banks never received a call. And so they called the company that's responsible for ensuring that their websites are up and their backends are running as they should. And when they called those companies were so busy that their customer service couldn't take those calls. And that actually meant that not only were those banks' websites not accepting credit debit cards, showing incorrect balances on accounts, but also that those banks were not able to answer questions that customers had. What I've also noticed is when I went ahead and Google those banks, all of those banks had lost position. Now, the reason why I mentioned banks and not all other websites is because I actually have a project where I'm working with a few local banks. By local, I don't mean banks in Dubai, but banks in the US. And they're small, very small banks that provide services to a specific niche of people. And I usually monitor their rankings. And so they do really very well with SERPs, and they usually look very good in SERPs. But a lot of those banks have lost position, and what have gained position were businesses that were not really banks. And so those banks were replaced by informative blogs. And so if someone searched for, let's say, First Citizens Bank, even though First Citizens Bank was probably not effective, if someone searched for First Citizens Bank, they would see an article about First Citizens Bank and not First Citizens Bank itself, because they were affected, their website was affected. So if you look at this in the grand scheme of things, and if you look at this in terms of your own website, you could be affected, but I would say there's an 80% chance that your website was not affected if you're not a major business and your servers do not rely on CrowdStrike. So how to find out that you've been affected? Well, Google, take a look at your rankings. If your rankings have not dropped, if you see your rankings have dropped, take a look at your site, see if sections of your site are up. Do a screaming frog scan to make sure that you don't have a whole bunch of 404s, which generally means that something is wrong, or 501s, which also means that something is wrong. If you see any of those, if you see 503s, which also indicate that there is something wrong. If you see a whole bunch of those errors, make sure that you call your hosting service and find out exactly what's going on in the background, because this might not necessarily be associated with CrowdStrike, but in fact, this might be something that has to do with something that they're working on their backend. So to answer your question, was SEO affected by CrowdStrike? Well, if your website does not go down, it's not going to be affected. If your website goes down, loses visibility, then you might be affected. Also, if you're an e-commerce store that's selling stuff online and your ability to accept credit cards have been affected, then you might lose rankings for those products or even for the entire site. So make sure that you do those checks before you conclude that you've been affected by CrowdStrike. Let me know in the comments below if you've been affected by CrowdStrike, if you have seen specific instances of small businesses being affected by CrowdStrike. Let me know in the comments, provide me with links. I'll be happy to take a look at them as I am putting together a study. Like and subscribe as always, and I will see you in the next video.